My name is Leone Bouvier. I was born into a world of hardship in France, where my father struggled with alcoholism and my mother remained distant. I never learned to read or write, while my younger sister Georgette found her comfort in religion. My own sanctuary came in the form of love. Specifically, my relationship with Emile Clenet, a 22-year-old mechanic who became the center of my world. Our Sundays together were my only escape from a life filled with disappointment and struggle. But everything began to fall apart when I became pregnant, and then lost the child. Soon after, I lost my job, and even the support from my parents seemed to vanish. The one constant I thought I had, Emile, began pulling away from me, treating me with coldness and distance where there had once been warmth. The final blow came on February 27th, 1953, in Nantes. The wind was bitter that day, much like my heart. I met Emile, hiding a .22 automatic pistol beneath my coat. I didn't know exactly what I intended to do. Perhaps scare him into staying. Or maybe I knew deep down this would be our final goodbye. When he confirmed our relationship was truly over, something inside me snapped. I raised the weapon and shot him in the neck. I was arrested that same day. At my trial, I tried to explain that twisted love had driven me to this terrible act. I told them if I couldn't have Emile, I didn't want anyone else to have him either. The court didn't understand the depth of my despair, the isolation that had consumed me after losing everything. My child, my job, my family's support, and finally the man I loved. In December 1953, they found me guilty of murder and sentenced me to life imprisonment. I live with what I did every day. At least, he was mine till the end. My name is Leopoldo NARVAIZ Jr., though everyone calls me Leo. I was 24 years old back in 1988, living in San Antonio, Texas. My life changed when I started dating Shannon Mann, who was just 17 years old. For a while, things were good, full of that young energy that makes you feel invincible. But in February 1988, she ended it. For her, it was over. For me, it was the beginning of an obsession I couldn't control. I couldn't accept it. Why? How dare she? She wants to leave me for someone else. These thoughts flowed through my mind. I became possessive and angry. I told people if I couldn't have her, nobody would. I smashed a window on her family's truck. The rage was building inside me, a pressure I didn't know how to release. On the night of April 15th, just after midnight, I went to the Mann home. I was high on cocaine and 3 six-packs of beer, my mind clouded and my emotions raw. Inside were Shannon and her siblings, 19-year-old Jennifer, 15-year-old Martha, and 11-year-old Ernest. What happened next was a blur of violence I can never take back. I still don't remember it all clearly. I claimed Jennifer stabbed me in the leg first, that I lashed out in a panic. But the evidence told a different story. I killed all 4 of them, Ernest, Martha, Shannon, and Jennifer. I took the lives of 2 teenagers and 2 children in a single brutal spree. The police found a knife at the scene with my thumbprint on it. It was over for me then. 2 days later, I signed a confession, though I tried to blame the drugs, the situation, anything but my own choices. At my trial, the truth was undeniable. The knife, my confession, my threats. It was all there. The jury found me guilty of capital murder, and I was sentenced to death by lethal injection. I filed appeals for a decade, arguing about intoxication and intent, but the courts upheld the sentence. On June 26, 1998, at just 34 years old, I will be executed by lethal injection. I ended 4 young lives because I couldn't handle rejection, and in doing so, I destroyed my own. My name is Wanda Jean ALLEN. I was born in 1959 in Oklahoma, and my life was hard from the beginning. We were poor, and when I was 12, I was hit by a truck and knocked unconscious. A few years later, I was stabbed in the left temple. Those injuries changed my brain. Doctors later said I had an IQ of 69 and left hemisphere dysfunction that made it hard for me to think clearly under pressure. I was more vulnerable to losing control when stressed. But I still lived as well as I could. In 1981, I was in a relationship with Deidre Pettis, a childhood friend. We got into an argument that turned violent, and I shot her. I pleaded guilty to manslaughter and served 2 years in prison. That's where I met Wanda Jean ALLEN. After my release, Gloria and I started living together. Our relationship was passionate but stormy. We argued often about money and jealousy. By December 1988, things were falling apart. On December 1st, we argued at a grocery store, and police had to intervene. Gloria decided to leave me. She and her mother drove to the police station to file a complaint against me. I followed them, hoping to stop her from leaving. In the parking lot, we argued again. Gloria was holding a garden rake she had used to load her belongings. When she approached me with it, I went to my car, got a gun, and fired one shot that hit her in the abdomen. Gloria died 3 days later. I admitted firing the shot, but said it was self-defense, that I was afraid of her because she'd been violent before and was coming at me with the rake. At my trial, my lawyer had only $800 for my entire defense. It was his first capital case. Nobody properly presented evidence about my brain damage and intellectual disabilities that made me vulnerable to stress. The jury only saw that I'd killed before. They convicted me of first-degree murder and sentenced me to death. For 12 years, I sat on death row while groups like the ACLU argued my case was unfair. But the courts rejected every appeal. On January 11th, 2001, I will become the first black woman executed in the United States since 1954. My final words will be, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do."